people celebrate Brown v. Board. I wonder, was it a good thing to put the innocent minds of young Black children in the hands of white women who did not see their humanity? You took them out of their environment of safety, and it perpetuated this ideology that white is right. Even the way we hear research, 48% of Black boys are reading at grade level compared to 98% of their white counterparts. Right. I'm making those numbers up. I'm just giving an example. And even the way you present that, it almost sounds like you're saying, aspire to be like white people, instead of looking at in their communities, like what are the other percentages of Black boys dealing with, and why might they not be? And so I say that very respectfully, Mrs. O, because I wasn't alive in the 50s. I don't know what it was like. And so when I, pronounce these, declarative feelings of mine, I try to do so with humility, because I don't know what it was like.
A lot of the parents felt that way about Brown versus Board of Education, because it was a two-sided coin, because after that, Black teachers were displaced, demoted, terminated. Even Black principals, you had credentialed professionals without a job, and you had white teachers who refused to help or teach Black kids. That Ruby Bridges and her crew, they kept them in a schoolroom alone for a year and a half.
How traumatizing for these children. And how many students potentially dropped out of school?
But say you didn't have Brown versus Board of Education. Equality was never equal for everybody.
Right. But so we were fighting for equality.
Force at least the law that says you have to make these schools equal. And then it forced the parents not to depend on teachers to culturalize their children, because it has to happen at home. So it was a two-sided coin, and I see why it was necessary, because sometimes things have to happen at the legal level, period, because you can't legalize people's hearts anyway, because it just made a lot of white folks mad.
I mean, that's the game. Changing hearts and minds is the game. And history has shown me you can't change everybody's hearts and minds. So you got to get out the way or get run over. I said that about Brown v. Board, and I say so with humility, because I'm speaking to and about my elders who have a lived experience that I do not relate to, which takes me to you, Jill. I see young people walking around sometimes with these T-shirts. We are not our ancestors. On the t-shirt. I find it so incredibly disrespectful.
What do they say?
We are not our ancestors. You are damn right you're not your ancestors.
I find it, which ancestors? Because
any part of it,
and that's why I don't understand about that either.
Black people. I wish I wouldn't care whoever else is wearing it. For a young Black person to put that out there, I think it's just so just out of pocket, and
but I think it goes back to the history we were taught, because even you were just talking about Brown versus Board of Education. Martin Luther King himself, who was a champion of the integration movement, in conversation with Harry Belafonte, told him, I think I'm integrating my people into a burning house. He said that he had reservations about Brown v. Board because he saw that the choice at the time was, do we keep our young Black impressionable kids in a school that is dilapidated and they don't have the resources, but they're learning Black history and learning what it looks like to be in Black community? Or do we send them to white schools where they'll get the resources, they can be on the shiny basketball and track teams, but they'll experience racism at a level and at an age where it's extremely traumatizing. And that's a really hard choice to make. I don't claim to understand that particular choice at all. But I think when it comes to the shirt about we are not our ancestors, that's why I asked which ancestors. Because if we knew our history, we knew that our ancestors were on every part of the spectrum when it came to these issues. And Black history as it's taught in white America and by schools that are owned primarily by, government institutions, we're taught Black history from one side. We don't get the full side of who our ancestors were in their humanity. Right? So
I guess it doesn't matter to me which ancestors they're referring to. I find it to be distasteful and disrespectful.
Rude.
It's rude. Mrs. O, it is rude. And another thing that I've noticed, and again, shout out to the young people who are taken to the streets streets and protesting and holding this administration accountable, fighting for what they want, from everything from student loan debt to police brutality. This is not a show where we're just putting down young people. But there are some people, because I wonder with the internet and, you know, with social media, and that has become a tool for activism, I do wonder, some people start to focus on building brands and not community. And so there are people out there, and not everybody in the civil rights movement was a household name. You know, I mean, I'm a student of civil rights, so obviously I know who the Reverend Hosea Williams was, but he wasn't necessarily across the country this household name in the way that Dr. Martin Luther King was. He was a part of Dr. King's inner circle. People are familiar with his work, but there are so many people who did this important work who, when the story is told, you may not know their name, but they were integral to the American body politic that we participate in today.
Especially women.
I mean, Dr. Dorothy Height was the woman's voice that you hear, but there were so many other women who were at that table doing work. And I just wonder, because this is something that's unique to your generation, where it is like kind of a gimmick for some of these leaders who are not necessarily interested in doing the work, but interested in building a following. I stalked your Instagram when I was looking for young activists, and you are clearly somebody who's doing the work. It was not like, hey, everybody look at me and, you know, get me likes, but you were on the ground doing the work. I saw other people who were, let me show you this filtered TikTok version of me showing up doing this one thing and posting the hashtag and being done. What do you say to that?
Honestly, I think there are people who are really good at what they do and no one knows about their work. And I think that's okay. And I think one of the issues with my generation is that it's not okay to just do good work. It's not okay to just do good work and to be loved by your community, and for that to be enough. That's not enough. And I think for a lot of activists, especially now Black activists, it's become profitable to be an activist. It's become to a point where celebrity activism is a thing. And people are trying to figure out not how many people can I touch or how many lives can I impact, but how many likes can I get, and how do I make this look good in a way that's going to make me look good? And that is detrimental to our movement.
It was never what it was about.
What message do they have that gets them this attention?
Well, I mean, that's the thing with social media, right? Like, you can hop on anything and listen. Most newsrooms are the decision makers and power brokers and bookers are white people. So they don't necessarily touch the work or the community. And so they might tap somebody, oh, this person has 2 million followers on Instagram. They do this, and this. Let's get them to speak. When we know, well, the people who are doing the actual work might have 20,000 people following them, but they are hitting that pavement and actually organizing and interested, you know, in advancing change, not advancing pockets or you know, influence. So
it's the same old thing.
Same old thing with different tools.
Be of other folks choosing our leaders for us.
Right.
Saying this person is the leader of speaks for the Black people.
Yes.
And that person, you know, not to disparage white women, has a white wife and lives in the suburbs. So it's the same. If you look at history, there really is nothing new. It's the same thing played over and over again. Now, when you look at what was done...
So y'all had celebrity activists too. They just didn't have social media.
Right. When you look at what was done to address that, it was either ignored because there was so much else that we needed to pay attention to, or it was spoken on, then it was ignored. Because you can't do something about everything. You have to choose your battles. And... I think these people eventually play themselves out, because time will tell and truth crushed the earth will rise again. They'll be there for a year or two. Next thing you know, you won't never even know where they are. So don't spend your time.
But what I must also say is that social media has given access and a platform to a lot of people who within our movements are normally left out of the conversation. I mean, the March on Washington was a phenomenal and pivotal point in our history. I have no notes, 10 out of 10, recommend. And there were no women, no Black women that spoke that day, even though there were countless Black women who made it possible. With social media, we have an opportunity for people like the Black women in particular who are on the front lines of these movements to platform themselves. And so I also struggle with this idea of you know, people getting a lot of likes for their activism, because there are a lot of people who are doing really good work, and it is resonating with the communities who are often left out of the conversation. But because we have social media, those activists, those women can have a platform, and the things that they're doing, the things that they're saying that can move people can have an impact on thousands of people in a space where that wasn't possible before.
I love that. And like you said, it's democratized the process,
Exactly.
not only for women, but us as Black people, period.